Welcome to Therapy Unlocked, where we discuss all things therapy from an unlocked perspective. I'm Emily Huffman, and I'm here with Katrina.
Hello, Katrina, Mondragon, licensed professional counselor. All right, so like I said, I am a professional, but not your professional, so nothing we're going to talk about today should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. That's the disclaimer.
Education, amusement, and because I would like to be famous. So please like, subscribe, follow, engage, hate on us, join the conversation. Find us on YouTube, find us on Instagram, find us anywhere where you listen to podcasts, because I love a creeper and I love a hater and I love a lover. So if you like the podcast, if you dislike the podcast, I'd like to hear from you.
Say it's an hour. It's not really a full 60 minutes. It's actually a therapeutic hour, which is the 45, 50 minutes, 55 max.
Yeah. Is that like a doctor's appointment hour, which is actually an hour and 45 minutes? It's like the opposite. Like you're going to be in the office at least an hour and 45 minutes, but like you're only seeing the doctor about 15. But like the billable hour is...
The billable hour, yeah.
is you're going to be there for like an hour and 45 minutes.
You bring up something interesting, though, in that most people, when they go to the doctor, they expect to be waiting for 30 to 45 minutes before their actual appointment. Mm-hmm. If you have an appointment at, let's just say, 11 a.m. at a therapist's office, and that therapist isn't available at 11 a.m., people are often turned off. A therapist is expected to be prompt. If the session is at 11, it's expected to begin at 11. And so what I do is I have a policy that, yes, we'll begin at 11. If I or you aren't there by 15 minutes after, we can call it as a whoopsie. If I no-showed on you, I better have a really good emergency. And if you no-showed on me, same thing. Like, I hope you're okay. So there's usually like the 15-minute window of the grace period. If somebody's going to be late, traffic, restroom, whatever, life happens. And then after that, it's too late and we wouldn't have time to have a session if it's more than 15 minutes after the top of the hour. But like, I've noticed that like a lot of therapists, if they have that policy where you're going to wait as long as you would for a doctor, what they end up doing is shoving the rest of their day later and later and later. And then I hear stories about clinicians not leaving the office until way after like 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I'm not exaggerating here.
Right. Which makes some sense in those clinical settings where maybe someone's inpatient and you don't really have quite as high an expectation of them abiding by a social convention at that time, or that's the best I could think to put that, just time constraints are a little different. You don't necessarily have an appointment time, to get to, you're going back to your room, that kind of thing. So I can see some of that where that would get pushed later, much like a doctor or a nurse, but for, your private practice or your just in office therapeutic service kind of clinician, I could see you need to keep it within kind of a 15-minute window with that.
Yeah. What's funny though is when I did work inpatient, I tried to still structure them on the hour. Mm-hmm. So I'd still start at the top of the hour, whether that was a 10 a.m. or a 6 a.m. or an 8 p.m. Because you're right. It could meet with somebody in the evening time if that was their preference, if that was available for my schedule.
Wow, that just really gave me an interesting thought, though, because I forget sometimes that you have prior experience with inpatient.
Yes, I
so do. The observation of behavior when someone comes into your office for an appointment from the street would obviously be quite different than how they would come into your office during inpatient.
Yes, one time I had somebody inpatient when they walked into my office. I said, "Welcome to my office, have a seat." And instead of sitting in the chair, the child sat right there on the floor where I said, "Have a seat." They sat because I did not specify you may have a seat in the chair. The concrete thought was she said, "Sit, I sit." So in that way, the observation was, okay, the child has concrete thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fact. Makes perfect sense to me. I get that. My other thought was, okay, so I really am just so interested. What would you get out of in that particular video, both in an off the street and an inpatient setting? I was so confused by the idea of what they do with the pillow. So we have our stuffed animals today, and I'm just curious. So like I've dropped mine now, and it's down on the ground.
Mine's just kind of
relaxing. and you're kind of hanging out with yours. But let's say, we're in an office and these are actually, on your couch or whatever, and I'm sitting here talking to you. like this. Is that the indicator for you?
Client utilized fidget toy during session to regulate emotions effectively.
I got
That's
you.
how I would document that.
See, I think that's an interesting perspective to give. So let's say I had a pillow instead, just a couch pillow. And I stayed like this for the entirety, just covered my whole body. What kind of thing would you document in that scenario?
That would depend.
I got you.
On the level of clinched.
Okay.
So like if you're simply cozy.
Yeah.
That's different.
That's comfortable, maybe. Yes.
So a cozied up with a pillow would be a different documentation than client appeared guarded and used the pillow to shield their body. Mm-hmm. So do you see how that's different?
Yes.
If the pillow is a shield and I don't want you to get me, so I'm clenching the pillow, that's different than your office is freezing and this pillow is keeping my body warm.
Right.
And you can see that in the level of tension. Mm-hmm. Also, it's okay to check in. So all of these observations that are nonverbal, I can sometimes ask if somebody's like this, hey, are you cold? Or are you uncomfortable right now? Oh, I was just, I was cold. And then they shake out their arms.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of the time I'll be doing something along these lines. I get a lot of like tension in my face, but people will think that I'm just beyond frustrated with them. Like when someone's angry with you and you take your hands and you're just like rubbing your temples like, oh, gee. And then I have to overcorrect and be like, no, I love you. It's not that. I have a weird body. That kind of thing. But no, I think that's so interesting how much did you have a specific course on that? I know when I was majoring in interpreting in specialized settings, we talked about, different student behaviors and what we might be able to understand from that situation as to their communication style or their language choices, etc. Did you have something similar to that during your major that was just about body language and what you do?
I don't remember if there was a specific class like labeled body language. That I don't recall. But I do recall in class taking turns. Okay, what does it mean if somebody's like this? Okay, what does it mean if somebody's like this? Okay, what does it mean? Like, we went down the list of body language, and if somebody's, just doing that, they're disinterested.
Sure.
The list of nonverbal cues of social situations, we did run through the gamut of them and then notice some multicultural differences. Maybe that was the class. Yes. Maybe multiculturalism was the class that I took where we talked about nonverbal communication because there are so many things that are nonverbal. And like in America, we make eye contact. That's not in all cultures.
No.
So that's just an American, not just an American, but that's a big American thing. To make eye contact is not necessary.
And I feel comfortable saying this now in America, even because so many people have become cognizant of the neurodivergent experience and, as a mother and etc. It shouldn't be the social convention, in my opinion, because a lot of people do not do that naturally. Make eye contact. Eye contact in and of itself, for as long as I can remember, has always been this is how you're showing respect. But not everybody who isn't making eye contact is being disrespectful.
Back to the dogs for a minute. Do you know what happens when you make too long of prolonged eye contact with a dog?
Yeah.
Don't do it, people.
Facts. And I mean, both sides of the coin, actually, too much eye contact and not enough eye contact are both things that occur in that neurodivergent experience and in the way that we know that's now a spectrum that affects a significant portion of our population. I barely even consider whether someone is making eye contact with me anymore.
How do you define? Yeah, I don't document that as a pathology anymore.
Right.
But do you do? How do you define neurodivergent?
Oh, okay. So for my personal opinion, and I am unqualified, I would say that would be anyone who would qualify for an individualized education plan in the public school system.
But then that would exclude me. Because I was more of an AP, pre-AP, not IEP kind of situation.
We went to school
but we did those
during
GT.
a different time.
The GT would have been like IEP.
Right. Exactly.
But
So
we just had different acronyms back in the 90s.
I swear, and once again, this is an unqualified opinion and possibly a bit of a conspiracy theory. The real conspiracy theory is if you look up the GATE program, which I was a member of. But that's another episode that might be fun to do another time. But that said, it is known that the gifted and talented program netted quite a few neurodivergent individuals, if not a large majority of them when we were younger. And my thought process on that, both as someone who has worked in an educational setting and a mother, et cetera, is that there is no one who asks more questions or interrupts you more, or quite possibly proves you wrong, or any of those things more than a neurodivergent child. I love them. But it's a bit of a disruption in class, okay? And a lot of the time it does mean they're very smart, but also it's a bit of a disruption in class. I'm sure you remember my reputation for keeping class going so we didn't get homework.
If we could distract the teacher.
Just keep asking questions until the bell rings. That said, I think we were sent to G&T to give our teachers a break. They didn't have that testing and all that other stuff going on a very large scale.
I remember pissing people off. This was college, but I remember pissing people off for messing up the curve. If you remember the curve.
I did too, yes.
Where they would take the lowest score and make that 100, but if somebody made 100, then nobody else got the curve.
Yeah.
So I was that weirdo who got the perfect 100, and then nobody got their grade bumped up, and it was my fault.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I just knew the answer.
Mm-hmm. That can be so very difficult. You know, I can't, just to go back ever so slightly, and we can go back to that here in a minute. Actually, I think maybe that should be our next episode. We should talk a little bit about that because I have a thought. But just to go back briefly to the perception thing and neurodivergency and the connection between those two things, I think that there's not really a standardized perception of it. But if you look at the current qualifications for who can get an IEP, it is quite a long list. And I think that list, if put on a Venn diagram with, brains that operate in a different fashion, would be, two concentric circles, essentially. So thank you for joining us today on Therapy Unlocked. We'll catch you next time. And, I actually have a topic in mind, but I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to come
surprise.
back. That said, this was a great conversation on perception. Just remember, it's not a horror story. She or her will write something that's, observational, and not judgmental. Not judgmental and not pathologized either. I think that's important too. Nobody is saying, hey, you picked that pillow up, so you must be a bad person.
No.
Not happening. All right.
All right. That's all we got.
That's all we've got for this one. You have a great day.
Later.
That's all the time we have for today on Therapy Unlocked. Please join us next time as we continue the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we continue the journey to unlock the mind, one conversation at a time.
Our talk about today should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. That's the disclaimer.